President Trump just became president for the second time, and already people are talking about how he is going to run again in 2028. But in this English lesson, we need to talk about how President Trump can't run for a third term in 2028. In this English lesson, we will talk about term limits. We have to talk about the Constitution. We will briefly talk about our first president, George Washington. We will learn a good English word like potential. We will learn the idiom getting the nod. We'll also talk about the idiom on fire, and it has nothing to do with flames. How about this English phrasal verb, cooking up? And this has nothing to do with food. We'll talk about what a long shot is and what a think tank is. By the end of this English lesson, you will also know what ruled out means. If that sounds interesting, please go ahead and hit that like button, and I will show you the first clip of this interview.
So the only thing that you're not going to like talking about, we'll talk about first. I'm watching CPAC, and they put up a poll of potential, next generation, right? Post-Trump. You are second on the list after the VP as people getting the nod at CPAC to be president. A lot of people were surprised by this. My first question, you have anything to do with putting your name in that list because you have presidential ambitions?
No. And President Trump, I'm a firm believer that President Trump will run and win again in 2028.
First, let's talk about the two people who are in this news clip. For each of the terms, I will have a picture, I will have the official definition, and I will use that term in a sentence. Steve Bannon is a man who used to help President Trump and plan political ideas. Like, this guy is super smart. He will be using some very fancy words, so many that I can't put them all in this English lesson. And Steve Bannon also hosts a podcast called Bannon's War Room. I have never listened to it, but if you are a President Trump supporter, you might like it. Steve Bannon worked in the White House when Trump was president the last time. Steve Bannon is being interviewed by a guy named Chris Cuomo. He is a journalist who used to work for CNN. Chris Cuomo had a news show on CNN before he lost his job. So I think it's safe to say this guy is a Republican, and I'm pretty sure this guy is a Democrat. Chris Cuomo also has a brother, Andrew, who was once governor of New York, and now I think he is going to run for mayor of New York City.
My first question, you have anything to do with putting your name in that list because you have presidential ambitions?
No. And President Trump, I'm a firm believer that President Trump will run and win again in 2028. So I've already endorsed President Trump. A man like this comes along once every century. If we're lucky, we've got him now. He's on fire, and I'm a huge supporter. Want to see him again in 2028.
And obviously, anybody who doesn't like what you say but judges it as a function of a lack of intelligence doesn't know anything about you. I don't make that mistake. You're a smart guy. He's term limited. How do you think he gets another term?
We're working on it. I think we'll have a couple of alternatives. Let's say that. We'll see what the definition. We'll see what the definition of term limit is.
They mention Project 2025. Let's get the official definition. A plan for what Republicans might do if they win the 2024 election. Project 2025 is a plan for changing government rules. One of the rules they might want to change is where we have in our Constitution that says a president can only run for 2 terms. We'll talk more about what that means in just a minute. Term limits. Term limits, a rule that says how long someone can have a job in government. The US president has a term limit of 2 terms. President Trump won the election in 2016. He won again in 2024. Guess what? According to our Constitution, he cannot run for president in 2028. Each presidential term is 4 years. I'm not very good at math, but I do know that 4 times 2 is 8. A person can only be president for 8 years. Now, we did have a president, FDR. His full name is Franklin D. Roosevelt. He was elected to 4 terms, and this happened during World War II, but he died in office. We have a lot of laws in the United States, but our biggest law is called the Constitution. There are many laws in the Constitution, and it's really hard to get them changed. Let's get the official definition for the Constitution. The most important law in the United States. The Constitution explains how the U.S. government works. And there are things that can be added to the Constitution. We call those amendments, or really big at the bottom, constitutional amendments. Constitution is the noun, constitutional is the adjective. A constitutional amendment is a change to the U.S. Constitution. There are 27 amendments in the Constitution, but the one I want to talk about today is the 22nd Amendment. And you can see at the bottom, it stops a president from having a 3rd term. So when Steve Bannon talks about Donald Trump becoming president again in 2028, it is against our Constitution. Why do we have that 22nd Amendment? Well, Americans were afraid of one person getting too much power. Our first president, George Washington, he ran for 2 terms and then stopped. He retired from being president. And every president besides Franklin D. Roosevelt has served no more than 2 terms. I haven't heard anybody else say this, but if Americans really like Donald Trump in 4 years and they want him to run for president again, I wonder if maybe his son, let's say Donald Trump Jr., runs for president. Donald Trump could be the vice president. And if they win, maybe Don Jr., Donald Trump's son, will retire and make his father president. I think that could happen. Steve Bannon is not saying that. He's actually not saying how President Trump could run for a 3rd term, but he thinks it's going to happen. They also mention presidential ambitions. President is the noun. It's a person. Presidential is the adjective. If someone has presidential ambitions, it means they want to become president. They also mention CPAC. What is that? A big meeting where Republican leaders give speeches. And in the picture, it looks like Donald Trump might be dancing on stage at CPAC. Let's get a sentence. Many Republicans talk about politics at CPAC every year. Take a look at this list. This is how the Constitution could be changed, but it is super hard to get that done. Congress would first have to write the new law or the new rule, and then 2/3 of Congress must vote yes. 2/3 is a huge number. Right now, it seems like 50% is about the most anybody in Congress could hope to get. This country is just too divided right now. But let's say it got 2/3 of the vote in Congress, 2/3 of senators and the House said yes. It would then have to go to the states for a vote, and 3/4 of states would have to vote yes. Our country is so divided, I don't see our Constitution changing anytime soon.
I'm watching CPAC, and they put up a poll of potential, next generation, right? Post Trump. You are second on the list.
Potential. It is a good word to know. It means the chance that something could happen. Like you have the potential to become a great English learner. If you are still watching this lesson and are understanding most of what I say, you are already a great English learner. Congratulations. Let's use potential in a sentence and it relates to that picture. For someone so young, she has the potential to become a great singer. They mention the GOP in this interview. It stands for, where is it? Grand Old Party. And basically, it's just another name for the Republican Party. The GOP is one of the two biggest political parties in the US. The Democratic Party is the other big political party. And guess what? The elephant is the mascot for the Republican Party. For the Democrats, it's a donkey. I'm not exactly sure why.
As people getting the nod at CPAC to be president, a lot of people were surprised by this.
Oh, watch out. We have an idiom, getting the nod. Right now, I am going to nod my head. I'm nodding yes, but this is a little different. It's an idiom, so it doesn't really translate well. Getting the nod means being chosen for something. My boss gave me the nod for a promotion.
No. And President Trump, I'm a firm believer that President Trump will run and win again in 2028. So I've already endorsed President Trump.
I don't have a really good picture for this, but I want to teach you the word endorse. It means to say you support a person or an idea. In 2024, Elon Musk endorsed Donald Trump for president. In other words, he said, I am voting for this guy and you should too. You might also hear the word endorsement. It is a noun. Donald Trump got an endorsement from Elon Musk.
So I've already endorsed President Trump. A man like this comes along once every century. If we're lucky, we've got him now. He's on fire, and I'm a huge supporter. Want to see him again in 2028.
Another idiom here, on fire, but remember what I said before, it has nothing to do with flames. It just means doing very well. The team is on fire after winning 5 games in a row. In the picture, it looks like this woman is on fire. She must be playing basketball really well.
You're a smart guy. Oh, you know he's term limited. How do you think he gets another term?
We're working on it. I think we'll have a couple of alternatives. Let's say that. We'll see. We'll see what the definition. We'll see what the definition of term. We'll see what the definition of term limit is.
All right. Well, so you're talking about litigating this issue.
Litigating. When you hear that word, think something to do with a judge or courts. It means taking a problem to court. The lawyer is litigating the case to help her client.
All right. Well, so you're talking about litigating this issue because I don't want people to listen to our interview and say Bannon's cooking up an insurrection. Bannon is cooking up. You know what I mean? I want people to get a straight take on where your head is.
I love this term, cooking up. It's an English phrasal verb that has nothing to do with food. It means secretly making a plan. The politicians were cooking up a plan to change the law. I still don't know how they are going to let President Trump run for president in 2028. I guess we will just have to wait and see.
What do you suggest?
Chris, as you know, I've had greater long shots than this. We supported President Trump after the election. I realize you don't believe the election in 2020 is stolen. We do. We fervently believe that. Where President Trump went back to Mar-a-Lago on January 20th, 2021, he was the longest of long shots to return to the White House. We said that day in our podcast and doubled down having President Trump's back, that he was coming back not just to win the primary, he would win the White House.
They talked about somebody being a long shot. It comes from horse racing, and it means something that probably won't happen, but is still possible. Winning the election is a long shot, but she still wants to try.
And we had to get organized and drive that victory and also start working on all the policies. What's called Project 2025 or the America First Policy Institute, but all those different think tanks that started putting in the policies that you're seeing today in what we call flood the zone or days of thunder or however you want to describe it. But this is many years in the making.
A think tank. Have you ever heard of a think tank? It's a group of smart people who study and give advice. The think tank wrote a report about the economy.
But this is many years in the making. So we've had greater long shots than Trump 2028, and we've got a lot of stuff we're working on there. We're not prepared to talk about it publicly, but in a couple of months, I think we will be.
But you are not suggesting revolution or overthrow or anything that people would condemn.
Chris, we just won one of the biggest sweeping victories. We're in the middle of a 1932 type realignment if we can continue on.
Revolution. This can be a scary word. It means a big change in government, sometimes with fighting. Like a revolution could get violent sometimes. The American Revolution happened a long time ago, but it was the war that helped the United States become a country, gain its freedom from England. The American Revolution made the United States a free country. They talked about 1932 and realignment. Well, Franklin Roosevelt, or FDR, was president when this happened, and it means a big change in politics in 1932 when many people voted for Franklin D. Roosevelt. Government changed. Government started helping people more, the people who needed it. Before that, if you were struggling with money problems, there probably wasn't any kind of government that would help you in the United States, but that has changed. The 1932 realignment changed American politics for a long time, even to this day.
So no, we're the big believers in democracy, and we show it because we won this unbelievable come from behind, not just in 16, as you know, but in 2024, when virtually everybody ruled Trump out.
Ruled out. It means decided not to do something. This is just an example sentence. The president ruled out running for a third term because it is not allowed. I can imagine a guy like Donald Trump really wanting to run for a third term. I bet he hasn't ruled that out yet. Congratulations, you made it to the end of another English lesson. If you're looking for more English, right down there is another lesson YouTube thinks you are going to like. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.